Okay, so we are going. So hello, Lori. How are you?
I'm doing good, Sydney. How are you doing?
I'm good. This is all kind of crazy, but we're making it.
We are. Day by day, I think, is the only way we can do it at this point.
I like that motto. So if you want to introduce yourself to our listeners, just tell us a little bit about you, and what you do.
Sure, I'm Lori Gaffner. I have a couple of titles on campus. I'm the Dean of the Chapel. I'm also the Director of Spiritual Formation, and I am an assistant professor of theology. So I wear a few hats.
Yeah, you
Live in
do.
Greenville. Have lived here actually since I came down here to go to school. I came down here to go to college back in the day, and then I ended up staying. I worked at a church for the first 5 years out of college. Got married. Had I have 3 kids, twin daughters that are 23. One just got married, and one is getting married in August. And then our son is 25. He'll be 26 here in just a couple weeks. So that's the family. And I've now been working at Greenville for I think this is my 34th year. So I've been here a while. As I said, I spent
Wow.
5 years in church ministry, and then I came back to work at my alma mater. So I
Wow.
picked up a few degrees along the way. Um, I have a degree in counseling and in elementary education, which I didn't really use, but
Hmm.
and then I have a degree in spiritual formation. So
Wow, I
that
didn't
one
know that.
that one comes in handy quite a bit. Yeah, that one, the one I use quite a bit. So
So the counseling major, I don't think is that still a major option today at Greenville?
well, and I didn't get that one here. So when I at Greenville, I majored in religion and psychology. I had a double major, and so
Okay.
I originally thought about going into counseling, but then I went into church ministry, and one of my masters was in counseling. I never followed through with the licensure and all that, so I just took the coursework, which has been really beneficial in my job as well.
Hmm.
So that was one of the masters that I got. I have a couple of master's degrees. I have that one, and then I have a master's in spiritual formation. So those I didn't get at Greenville. Um, yeah, so I
Wow.
kind of went ahead and told you a lot of stuff, but didn't really tell you where they all came from. But that's the story. I have a lot of degrees, but none of them add up to a PhD. So there you go.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm actually pretty interested in counseling, so we'll have to talk more about that at a later
Sure.
date.
Yeah. Sure.
Guidance counseling is kind of what I'm working towards.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Sounds like a good profession,
yeah.
especially this day and age. I think it can be very worthwhile.
Yeah, mental health is so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how has quarantine been for you?
Not too bad. Kind of getting used to the online classes. I think it's harder for students maybe than it is for some faculty, especially if I've taught online before, not a great deal, but I have done it. And so it wasn't quite as scary to me as it was to some of the other faculty. But I think students are really struggling with having, 6 online classes, especially if they've
Yeah.
never taken them before. So I'm not doing too bad. It's we're kind of get settled into a routine, and obviously the routine includes staying at home most of the time, kind of going out just every once in a while to the grocery store or to the drugstore or something. But
hmm
our son lives with us, and he's been working full time during this seclusion, so he's been in and out. And we have a dog. She keeps me company during the day.
Yeah.
Actually, not just during the day, all the time. But so we've been settling in okay. It hasn't been too hard.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more of an introvert by nature, so although I've discovered how much I do miss just being in community with people. So
hmm Yeah,
uh, yeah.
for sure. So, do you have any hobbies that you've been doing?
Well, actually, it's keeping me busy enough just keeping up with online classes. I haven't really
Yeah.
had time to do anything other than that. It just seems that there's always something to do when it relates to
hmm
online. There's always a situation that I need to deal with, or a student that I need to help, or papers that I need to grade, or so. So I really haven't had time to do much beyond that. I love to go to movies. Obviously, I can't do that.
Mm,
So I miss the theater, but mostly I've just been watching some TV and then trying to keep up with online. My classes are large. I'm teaching 2 sections of Theo 110, and each of them have almost 45 students.
wow.
So that's been a challenge to stay on top of those. And then I have one
Hmm.
other smaller class, but um, so I haven't had time to do much beyond that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
You mentioned Theo. So I had you, I think I was a freshman. Yeah, for 30110, and we go on the trip. Do you want to talk about that trip? Because for me, that was really an experience that kind of started my journey for spiritual formation at Greenville. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
sure, I'd be glad to. Fortunately, Sydney, we were able to get that trip in with all of the classes before the pandemic set.
Wow,
So all the students in these sections were able to take the trip.
that's great.
Yeah, that's really a transformative trip, as you know. We take students away for the weekend, just to St. Louis, but away. We stay together in a hotel, and then throughout the course of a weekend, we visit about 7 or 8 different worship sites. And in some cases, we actually sit through a worship service, and then we have a Q&A afterwards. And in some cases, we just have a Q&A. But students are exposed to just a variety of not just Christian traditions, but also 2 of the other world religions that we hear a lot about, and that's the Muslim faith and Judaism. So throughout the course of the weekend, um, we we visit Catholic churches, Mennonite, um, Judaism, as I said, Islam, and a couple different Catholic churches. I'm trying to think. Oh, an Orthodox church. That's another
Mm.
big one that we visit. So by the end of the weekend, students have seen and heard and also smelled, because there's incense,
Yep.
um, just a variety of new experiences. And then part of it is to have them write about that afterwards, and how they felt and what they learned. So it's really a cornerstone event that we do at Greenville that I don't know of any other schools that do that.
Hmm.
So um, most of our students experience that when they're a student here. Yeah.
I need to go back and look at what I wrote after that trip.
I probably have it somewhere, Sydney. It's
Yeah.
probably still on D2L. I could send it to you.
I could probably find it on my drive somewhere, but
Okay.
yeah, it was just that trip was just really cool. I One of the reasons kind of that directed me towards Greenville was like I wanted to learn more about different religions. I
Mm.
didn't even know that that was a trip when I committed to coming to Greenville. So it was kind of a surprise after the fact. But for sure it was really cool to like learn about the different aspects of Christianity and then completely different religions. So that was
Mhm.
really cool. There was conversations that happened in those Q&As that I'll never forget. So,
I'm sure. I think those are the most formative parts of the trip, with the Q&A sessions.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's too like when you room with people in the hotel, like those friends that I had and I made on that trip, I'm still friends with.
Is
So,
that right? That's
yeah, that's still a really cool part of that trip is like starting off your freshman year, getting to meet new people that way.
Yeah, especially when you're a junior transfer, which you were, right? Yeah.
No, I was a
Oh,
freshman.
this is your freshman year you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great. So this was a few years ago that you went.
right. It was a
You're
while
still
ago.
thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, if you want to talk about, I know we're not on campus anymore and we're quarantined, but you want to talk about kind of how spiritual formation is like we talked about the trip, but just the different ways that Greenville tries to get spiritual formation as part of it's really kind of one of our pillars. It's a part of our um, mission for the school to be to just be an influence for Christ for students. So you want to talk about how your role plays into that, like just as if we're on campus, and then We can also talk about how it's played out since we've been quarantined.
Sure. Well, on campus, primarily, I oversee chapel, and so that's a big part of what we do. I would say that's kind of the cornerstone of the spiritual formation program. It's the one that we hope touches the most number of students. It's the one where we really try to build community, and I know that's a word that's said quite a bit on campus, but it really is an important word to us.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no other place where we try to get everybody together except in chapel. And so I oversee those. I schedule many of the speakers, but I have people speak into that as well, and give chapel services over to other groups and organizations, as you know, being in GSGA.
Yeah.
So, and I also oversee Vespers. I do interview and select an executive team of students who do really run the day in and day out part of Vespers. So I select that group of students and then kind of give them quite a bit of autonomy in planning Vespers and leading it. But that's under me as well. Small groups has been an important thing that we've really started to develop over the last couple of years. We're still tweaking it and really wanting to see it grow more and more, because it's one thing to meet in a large group, but I really felt that students needed to be in smaller groups where they could really be known and get to know one another.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where a lot of spiritual formation can take place. And so we're working to develop those more, but those are under me as well. And then really spiritual formation is shared also with residence life and um, student life and on the residence floors and Bible studies. And so we're trying to, on a Christian campus, we really want to share that responsibility, because, I know a lot happens in athletics related to spiritual
Mm-hmm.
formation. Our coaches are committed to helping their athletes grow spiritually, and faculty are committed to that as well. So I try to be a resource to those organizations and those people, and just kind of cheer them on and say, this doesn't have to be just my program, definitely not,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a shared responsibility. It's a shared, we all want to see our students grow spiritually. So I do have some major things that are under me, but then I realize that spiritual formation is happening in all kinds of other places as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I've definitely seen that take place, like just within my experience at Greenville. Like my basketball coach has been a spiritual leader in my life, and chapel and vespers and small groups. I've been a part of one, two, three, four small groups, I think, five. And we've only had it a couple of years. So just really cool. I mean, those were 5 groups individually because they kind of like refresh every semester. And
Mm-hmm.
so those were 5 groups that I know have people who lead those small groups have poured into me and really helped me on my journey. So it's really cool. So for our listeners, if you don't know, chapel on Monday and Wednesday mornings. So you have 2 opportunities for that. And then Vespers once a week, which is really cool. I really enjoy Vespers because most of the time it's a student speaking. So it's
Right.
really nice to have, an adult pastor-like person speaking on Monday and Wednesday. And then you also can hear from a student on Thursday. And then small groups on Fridays, plus your hall Bible studies. So there's really something every day.
Yeah, you're right. Just about. Yep.
Yeah, so it's really, really cool. So how has it been since quarantine? I know you're still sending out emails, but you had a really cool idea. You want to share about that?
Well, we knew we couldn't do chapel as usual, but we didn't want to just do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So um, we thought, well, the small groups could continue on over Zoom. There was a way to actually accomplish those. And then we thought, well, we could just go back to the archives and just kind of do a best of chapel series. And so what we did was we've captured most of the last 3 years or so on YouTube. And then if you go back further, it's a little bit harder to do those because I think those are on iTunes U. But I think the last 3 to 4 years are on YouTube. And so we looked at those, and I looked to see what were the ones that were viewed the most or what students had said that they liked. And I've been sending those out as kind of a best of chapel series and encouraging people to watch those on a weekly basis. So I actually have one scheduled on Monday and one on Wednesday. I kind of do the same format. I don't know if anybody's actually watching it at 9:30 on Monday and 9:30 on Wednesday, but I'm kind of putting it like I would normally do.
Yeah.
And then I'm also sending out some music from the past, some past pursuit groups, but also some live music, not live, but it's recorded, but just recorded recently. So we've had some alumni do that and some current students do that as well. So there's worship and then there's a speaker, and kind of like you would have in chapel, but recorded, and so you can watch it anytime you want to throughout the week. So there's something fresh every week coming out. And then uh, Vespers has done a Vespers YouTube Live, and so they have actually secured speakers. And I don't know if they're doing it live now or if they're recording it, but I know they were doing it live for a while.
Mhm.
And they're getting students to lead worship for that. So we've pretty much kept the same things going, just in a little bit different format, because we wanted students to see some continuity and to see that, hey, we're still here and we're still very concerned about how you're doing spiritually. And so we want to offer you something at least to keep you going and to let you know that we're here. I hear that the small groups are doing okay. I think we've had a few students join that weren't previously in them, so I think some students are yearning for community, which I
Mhm.
don't blame them. So they've jumped in on some of the Zoom small groups. So, and we added a couple of new small groups as well during this time.
Yeah.
So
And
that's kind of what we've been doing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
the cool thing about that too is like I'm doing two of them right now because they don't have to be at 9:30 on Friday mornings. And
Right.
so that's been really nice. There's a positive to doing it online.
Yes. And that may be something we carry through, after this time is over. There are some things that technology affords us that face to face doesn't. And so we're learning some things through this that I think will be helpful when things get back to quote unquote normal.
Yeah, and I for sure think there's things about just being in the physical presence of people that's never going to be replaced, but it is kind of cool to think about there are positives that are coming from this time and things we're learning that we can apply to when we get back face to face. That'll be really cool to see.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so
Hmm.
I'm excited. Um Chapel credits. It's a
Oh
big
yeah,
thing. It's a
chapel
big
credit.
deal. Yes, people go crazy about these. So you want to talk about kind of how they've operated in the past because it's changed since I've been at school and I know it's changed multiple times before my time.
Yeah.
So whatever you're thinking with that and then kind of how it's operating now and then what you see for the future of chapel credits.
Okay, you're right. It has changed a lot in the past several years. My hope is that we always have required chapel, and I get pushback all the time on that. And this is why I hope that, because I always have students come back and say, if you hadn't required me to go, I wouldn't have gone, and I'm glad I went. It's just something about if it's voluntary, it's one of the things we go, well, we don't have to be there. We're not getting a grade.
Mhm.
It's not, it's the one thing that I can let slide. And I think that there needs to be accountability,
Yeah.
especially at this time in life. You're still young. And so my hope is that we create habits that will continue on after
Mhm.
you leave school. So if it's up to me, it'll always be required. Now, how you keep track of that, that's the hard part. So we have gone from you can only miss so many chapels a semester to you have to earn so many chapels a semester. And so probably the ones you're most familiar with are you have to earn 36 credits. And then we switched to instead of earning 36 throughout the course of the semester, you have to earn 2 a week. And we did that because we saw that students would get all their 36 credits and then the last month or so of chapel, nobody would be there. And that's really not how spiritual formation works. You can't, it's not like, it's like sleep. You can't just build up sleep and then you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Um, in-
Hibernate for a month.
yeah, right. In our spiritual lives, we need that daily interaction, that daily encounter with God. And so we wanted to encourage that throughout the whole semester. The hard part is keeping track of that. It's much easier to keep track of 36 credits over the course of a semester. than it is to keep track of 2 a week. And so we're still kind of struggling with how to keep track of it, and then also what should the consequences be. And you don't want to be punitive, but there have to be consequences, otherwise people won't do it.
Mhm.
That's the nature of being a human being, I guess.
Mhm.
So my hope is, over the summer, I want it to be something that's owned by many different areas, so that everyone is encouraging students to go to classes, everybody's encouraging students to be in chapel, everybody's encouraging students to just show up to what they're supposed to show up to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to reach out to coaches and also Res Life and different and faculty, and see if we can kind of come up with something that would jointly help encourage students to be present in chapel. And I don't honestly don't know what that looks like yet. I know GSGA has come up with some great ideas, and I'm going to lean into them even more, into that group, because I think they know they have the pulse of the student body. And I want it to be owned by not just me. I don't want it to be my policy, but I want it to be a policy that everyone's kind of shaped and put together.
That's really cool. I think that will go over really well. I agree. Like, I go back and forth in my head. I was actually just talking to someone today about how one moment I'm like, I really think you should require it because of the reasons you said, like those students that don't go and then they have to go, how much value they get from that. And
Mm.
like you have all those personal stories. So I completely get that. On the other hand, if it's optional, the group that does decide to go, it'll be a lot beneficial to them because the people that go want to be there, and so I can really see both sides. And I also think the big thing for me that I'm really passionate for is rewards. I think it'd be really cool to not only, because a lot of people say, so the consequence right now is a point off the housing lottery, and students kind of turn their heads like, that doesn't really relate together, chapel
Right.
and housing. And I think we're all on the same page with that. But I think it'd be really cool if we kind of came up with some type of reward for students to go. That way they're excited about it. But speaking of that, we didn't mention earlier, this year they've also started doing athletic chapels where all athletes go into the gym. So that's another opportunity that we didn't mention.
Mhm.
Um, but something that I was just thinking about is Greenville is a Christian college. We're founded, our beliefs are Free Methodist. That's what we're founded on. But we have students coming from all different backgrounds, all over the world, students from different types of Christianity and students that aren't Christian at all. You want to kind of touch on how, because I come from a Catholic background, and so it was definitely an adjustment for me. But there's never this, you're required to go, but I never felt this like pressure that it was like you have to believe what we believe. It
Mhm.
was just very welcoming. And so you want to talk about how that kind of works for students coming from all different religious backgrounds?
Yeah, and I think that we've talked about how can we best reach out to those students. We do have what we call an open attendance policy, which means you don't have to sign a profession of faith to come. So there are schools where you do have to sign a profession of faith, like Wheaton, Taylor, other schools where part of the application process is to say that yes, I'm a Christian, and and to describe your faith. And we do ask students, I think we ask students that question, but you don't have to be a Christian to come to Greenville. And I like that. I like that we have an open policy, but it also creates, I shouldn't say but, and it creates opportunities for us and challenges as well.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that not everybody at Greenville is a Christian, let alone the kind of Christian that the flavor of Christianity that we might be. I think it's really important to keep that in mind. That people are out there and they have an experience. It's kind of like going on a little uh, DO 110 trip. They're being exposed to things that they haven't been exposed to before. So one of the things that I hope to do in chapel, and we try to do this, I think, is to make it more user friendly, so that you don't have to, the speakers are not necessarily coming from any particular um, type of Christianity, or they just want to be open and talk about Christ and the love of Christ, and the openness to that. Um, we also need to, and we've done this a little bit in the past, for some of our students that are international students that don't have any exposure to Christianity, we have held some special chapels for them, just to talk about, this is what Christianity is, this is what Christians believe. So
Mm-hmm.
we do some of that in Theo 110, but just to even help them understand, this is what we're doing around here, and this is why we're doing it. So the challenge is, we don't want to change who we are. We do want to still, we are a Christ-centered college, university. So we're not going to apologize for that, but how can we continue to make it an open place where students don't feel forced to believe anything, but feel welcome? And that's one of my goals in chapel, is that they feel a sense of openness and welcome, and doesn't matter where you come from, we love you, we care about you. We would love for you to get to know this Jesus that we love, and know loves us. And so we're going to talk about that, and talk about him, but you're not required to come to faith. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that was
Around,
good.
but I am sensitive to the fact that we have a number of students that don't come from Christian backgrounds, because I encounter them in Theo 110 all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think about those students when I'm planning chapel, and wanting to do things that don't that don't make them feel as though we're in their face, but that,
Mm.
that they sense, okay, this is an open place, and I might want to someday explore Christianity on a deeper level.
Yeah, and I like that. It's more of an exploration than it is a like, and you can tell right from the beginning, just saying like, we don't, like, in the application process, not having to declare your faith right away is something that sets Greenville apart. So that's
Yeah.
really cool. Um so the big question that I'm trying to answer from this podcast is, why do I have to go to chapel? So when a student poses that question to you, I know I've gotten that question as student body president. What is your response?
My response would be, it's the one place where we get to be Greenville University together. It is the place where we get to come together as a community and to celebrate who we are. And so we do a variety of things in chapel. We celebrate sports teams. We have announcements, and we
Mm-hmm.
celebrate the achievements of our students, and we sing together, because it's fun to sing. Not everybody likes to sing, but we do that. And we hopefully listen to a message that encourages us for the rest of our day or week or semester. That's the hope. But it's the one place that we can come together. As I said, it's the only place that we try to get most everybody together. It touches the most students. And so there's just something about coming together as a university. And I think, since we're a small university, we really value that coming together. We value knowing each other. And that time when we just shake hands with each other in chapel, just look around, see who's by you, see the person next to you or behind you or in front of you. Recognize that you go to school with a bunch of other wonderful people, and you get to be together with them. You don't have classes with all these people, but you do get to come together for chapel and vespers 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So that would be my response. It's the community building aspect. It's it's also that we offer a time of of coming to know Christ. That's the centerpiece of chapel, and we can share that in chapel as well. But it's that time that we can come together. There's no other place that we do that, and that's kind of a distinctive of a Christian college, a Christian university, is chapel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's awesome. I like that. You think we'll be elbow bumping after we get back from the
uh,
coronavirus?
that's a good question. I don't know if that'll happen right away. I hope we get there sooner rather than later. But yeah, that's a good. Oh, I see. Instead of shaking hands, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought you meant elbow to elbow, like close to each other. Yeah, I don't know. We might be doing elbow to elbow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we'll eventually get back there, but that's just
Yeah.
yeah.
So what's the future of chapel look like? Do you have a vision for it moving forward?
Well, I think that I want to continue to make it a shared experience. So I really want to continue to have different groups speak into chapel. You know, we are constantly evolving because students are changing and ways to reach people are changing. And so the message doesn't change. The fact that we're a Christ-centered university doesn't change.
Mm,
And so I don't think that our primary purpose changes, but how we go about delivering that changes, I think, and needs to with the
mm,
times and with the student population that we have. So just to be continually open and willing to invite lots of people to the table to tell us and inform us how can we best reach out to who we are as a university at this point in time. So I can see us constantly evolving. As I said, not the main message, but the way we get it across. I think it's
yeah.
going to always be changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So the last thing is just everyone's at home right now. Do you have any encouraging words of advice or life for students or anyone that's listening?
I would just encourage people to remember that they're not alone. I
Mm,
think that we get this feeling of loneliness, and being alone does not have to make us feel lonely. There's a
mm,
difference between being alone and being lonely.
yes.
And as a Christian, we're never alone. We have the Spirit of Christ within us, and I can be all alone in my house and not feel lonely because I have the Lord with me. I can be with a whole group of people and feel lonely because
Hmm.
I don't have that sense of inner peace with God. So for Christians, we're never alone. We never are. Even if we're by ourselves, we're never lonely. We should never feel that sense of loneliness.
Yeah.
So that would just be my encouragement. And if you do feel alone, reach out to somebody because there are others that feel the same way. I had a student the other day tell me on a Zoom call that he's been looking through his phone at people that he hasn't talked to in a while or hasn't texted in a while, and he's been reaching out to them. I thought, what a great idea.
That is. Yeah,
Yeah,
just go through your contacts.
yeah, go through your contacts and just send them a text or give them a call, talk to them, hear their voice. Um, People are feeling the same way, and I think they would love to just hear from you. So if that sense of loneliness starts to creep in, reach out to somebody.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's really encouraging to me. So,
Right.
well, thank you, Lori. I really appreciate the time you've given up to be a part of this podcast. I'm excited for people to hear all this good stuff.
Well, thanks, Sydney. It's been a pleasure to talk with you. Yeah.
Yes. Miss you.
Miss you too. Someday we'll be back. Someday.
Someday. Yep.
All right.
All right.